Welcome on in, Eagles fans, to episode 30 of the No Huddle Show, our Philadelphia Eagles podcast on NJ.com. I'm Joe Giglio, joined as always by Elliot Shore-Parks and Mark Eckel. They cover the Eagles for NJ Advanced Media, and we're sitting here a couple days after the press conference to announce Sam Bradford as the Eagles quarterback, which we'll get into, and we all have our opinions on Bradford back with the Eagles and how now that affects what should be a fun week around the NFL. The legal tampering period begins now as we speak. We're doing this podcast on a Monday. Free agency will start. Teams can sign. Players can sign with teams starting on Wednesday. So the Bradford deal and how it affects the Eagles cap and really how it affects the Eagles now moving forward. So we'll get into some ideas on free agency, where the Eagles might go. And we'll start, Elliot, with you. And last time we talked here on this podcast, we were talking about basically the idea of Sam Bradford coming back and how it felt like it was going to happen any moment then, and it did. And now he's back, and here we are with the Eagles. At least in their minds, they have that spot filled.
Yeah, I mean, I think, with this podcast, we've kind of beaten to death my opinion on Bradford in terms. I think it's fair to say, I don't think I don't think Sam Bradford is a great option for the Eagles at quarterback. That being said, if you just talk about the deal itself, when I saw the contract and the numbers, my initial reaction was, well, Bradford's not a franchise quarterback, and he's not getting franchise money. And Bradford's not an elite quarterback, and he's getting below average quarterback money. I mean, he got more guaranteed money than Nick Foles, but he only got a tier deal like him. It's essentially really just a 1-year deal because there's no way the Eagles are going to pay him $23 million cap hit during the 2017 season. And if he has a good year next year, they'll redo his deal because they won't want him to play on a 1-year deal. If he has a bad year, they'll cut him and they'll save themselves $13 million. So in reality, it's a 1-year deal with a cap hit that's actually less than what they less than what they paid him last year. So the contract itself, to me, when we discussed re-signing Bradford, the thing was always, well, he's not worth this money. He's not worth this money. We didn't really get that money. So but not really, because
talk about cap money. Bradford got $18 million in his pocket this year. That's
agreed,
a lot of money.
Right, but
forget the cap. Forget cap. He got $18 million.
Cap matters. The cap matters a ton because
it matters to the Eagles. Doesn't matter to Sam Bradford.
You're right, but it matters.
It matters $17 million right now if you want.
Right, but it matters. But it matters when you're analyzing a contract. I mean, like
how much he got it. It's a great deal for Sam Bradford. Nobody else was going to give Sam Bradford that kind of money. Nobody.
And that's probably why he took it and did not get free agency.
Right.
It's a great deal for Sam Bradford.
But my point is this. When we talked about re-signing Bradford, the thing was always you can't give him X amount. You can't, have him eat much just a year cap, blah, blah. The Eagles, he's taken up less cap than he did last year, and it's really just a 1-year deal. So,
but you say that, but if they get rid of him, they still got to give him $4 million to go away.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Okay, you're right. So they would have
he wins. He gets $4 million to walk away and goes in. If I'm Tom Condon, if I ever need an agent, I think I'm calling him first. he got the most average quarterback in the league.
An average deal.
Average deal, 22 million guaranteed, 26 million guaranteed is not an average deal.
No, but it's like 20 or 21st in the NFL among quarterbacks for average guaranteed money in a contract. So, I mean, yes, in reality, he's not worth any. I mean, is Sam Bradford good enough at being an NFL quarterback to get 20-something million guaranteed? No. But it's not like every time a free agent signs, right, it's like Byron Maxwell, highest paid cornerback in the NFL. DeMarco Murray, one of the highest paid running backs. Bradford did not get that type of deal. I mean, he's in terms of guaranteed money, he was very low.
Murray had a bad year, but Murray was coming off a year where he led the league in rushing. He deserved that.
Right. So I'm saying
I think where he's 26th in the league in quarterback rating.
I guess what I'm saying is I don't think the Eagles grossly overpaid for Bradford, is my point.
Not about grossly. I'll just say overpaid.
Well, I think you overpaid from in any way you look at it because he's never accomplished anything. So it'd be really hard to. I mean, he wasn't going to take
He's going to make $100 million without ever going to the playoffs.
Yeah,
that's true.
Think about that. $100 million.
But 76 of that is because he was the number 1 overall pick.
But they could have cut him before that. He earned most bad quarterbacks. Like Jamarcus Russell didn't get all his money when he was a bad quarterback.
No, you're right. Look, Bradford
didn't get all his money when he was. Sam Bradford got every penny of that original contract without doing anything. So getting hurt.
Bradford has convinced the NFL that he has potential, and that's why they know.
He convinced the Eagles he had potential.
Well, I think the Rams kept him all those years.
When they tried to get rid of him.
Right, but I guess what I'm saying is I almost feel like teams are like afraid to get rid of Bradford. Like if you get rid of him, he'll come back to bite you. Now I don't think that'll happen, but I'm just saying.
I had 1 year of him and said, that's it. I had enough.
Yeah, so I want to know what you guys think of Bradford and the way I'm looking at these numbers now, and if I'm looking, you guys know it better than me. So if what I'm seeing in front of me now is off, tell me. But if it's right, the way I read it, it's almost like they're betting on each other again for one more year, and then they have to do a dance next year again somehow, some way. Like you said, Elliot, they're probably, if he has a big year, they would probably restructure and re-sign and extend him, because next year the cap hit, from what I see here in front of me, is $22.5 million, and they could get out of it with the $4 million, paying them that to walk away. But it's a pretty small cap hit this year for a quarterback, but that's pretty big next year. So it almost feels like they're betting on each other for next year.
Let me ask you this, Joe. So it's $23 million cap hit, but I believe if they release him, it's a $9 million cap.
Yes, it's a 9.5 dead cap.
To walk away, but the cap hit would be 9. Yeah, 9.5.
Okay, right. Well, I mean, $9 million is not a super small cap hit, but yeah,
it's really not a 1 year deal. It is, but it isn't. I mean, if they're willing to take that kind of hit to get rid of him, then.
Well, let me ask you this: money aside and all that, do you get the feeling now that Sam Bradford is absolutely without question the Eagles' quarterback? Yeah, he's going to start week 1, but do you feel that they've committed to him as like their guy?
Not yet.
Not yet. No, because
and that's kind of how I feel. So
they committed to him for 2016.
Right.
He will start he's going to get hurt, but I mean, he'll start every game that he's healthy. Like, there's no competition. We're not going to camp with a competition at quarterback.
No, I agree with that 100%. And I think
even if they take a guy at 13, he's the future.
Well, and I think that's why when I saw the contract, like the idea that I just don't feel the idea of the Eagles re-signing Bradford was always, you can't commit to this as your guy. Like, it'll get Peterson fired. Like, you're going to make all these mistakes, right? But I don't really get the vibe that that's what they did. They didn't really say, he's our quarterback, we think he is the guy.
Which to me is the worst. Again, I could be wrong. And it'll all play out eventually, and we'll see who's right and who's wrong. But my thing is, and I think, Elliot, I think you agree with me here, either make him your guy or let him go. Like, this was a half-assed thing to do.
Yeah, but I think that's easy to say. I mean,
either he's your guy. We're going to win a Super Bowl with Sam Bradford. Pay him give him 5 years, whatever many millions, and let's go. Or, no, we're never going to win a Super Bowl with Sam Bradford, so move on and let's draft Paxton Lynch or Carson Wentz or Jared Goff or whoever you like, and let's start over and see if we can win with that guy. Right?
It's almost like they placated both crowds without killing themselves cap-wise. Like Howie Roseman was able to do that from the perspective of a 2-year deal without killing them long-term, but it's almost like they played to both crowds. The pro-Bradford crowd who said he's the best guy available, you have to bring him back. And then the anti-Bradford crowd who said, like Mark's saying, you're not going to win a Super Bowl with this guy. He is what he is, so move on.
It's their job to decide, are we ever going to win? If the answer is no, we're never going to win a Super Bowl with Sam Bradford, then why are you wasting another year of life?
Right. And I will say, even though it's less of a cap hit this year, or like roughly the same as last year, I mean, a $12 million cap hit or whatever it is, 11.5, 12, something like that, that's still almost half the Eagles' cap space for this year. I mean, I'm sorry, in terms of their available cap space. They had roughly $30 million and he's at 12, so it's a little less than half. I mean, so this did take a chunk of their actual remaining cap space.
But it was any other than a rookie, any quarterback would have. I mean, any good quarterback.
Well, they could have just started Sanchez and gone with a rookie.
Could have done that.
They weren't going to get a good quarterback. Good quarterbacks don't hit the free agency market. So, I mean, unless you were going to sign someone unless you're going to sign a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I don't really think that's the route they were going to go. I mean, as you wrote this morning on Monday, they had interest in Kirk Cousins. So it's not like their sole attention was Bradford this whole time. I think Bradford was willing to take a lot less than they thought he would, and I think the Eagles said, you know what, he's not terrible. He'll come in. And maybe we luck into something, and if not, we can move on after a year. And I think that's kind of why the deal got done. I don't think this was the Eagles really wanted Bradford, and I don't think this was Bradford really wanted to be here. I think Bradford felt he had the best chance. I mean, look, if you're Bradford, maybe you're thinking, I'll come in here for a year, 2 years, and this will be my key to a next big deal. I mean,
how much more money does the guy need? Come on.
Hey.
Yeah, but he's thinking that way. Look, if Bradford somehow, some way has a big year next year, like if he plays to go back to what we always like to joke about, if he plays like he did the last 7 games throughout most of next season, he's going to be able to hold the Eagles up for a deal, right? If he
I'll tell
stays
you this
healthy.
right now. I'll tell you this right now. If Sam Bradford plays like he did the last 7 games of the season, the Eagles will not make the playoffs. He has to play better than he did those 7 games.
Yeah, they weren't that great.
Right, all right. But I see what you're saying, Joe, but I just think this idea that, like, if Bradford can keep up his strong play, like, I think Bradford has to play better than he did in those 7 games, in my opinion. Not
I
considerably
think it
better.
doesn't matter how he. I think it matters what the team does. If they go 7-9 again, you can't bring him back, can you?
Oh, yeah.
Can you?
I think he's back.
At 7-9?
I'm not saying it's a good idea, but I'm saying, so let's say they're 7-9, the defense is good, you feel like you're building something with Peterson, you finish 2 games out of the division.
At least. No,
I don't know.
They usually win a division.
Well, it depends why they go 7-9 too. Let's say Bradford plays well, and the defense sucks. I mean,
well, whatever. They're 7-9. They're all equal. So it's a 7-9 team. You bring him back?
How about this? Ready?
Does he stay healthy the whole year?
No, of course not. He misses 2 games.
How about this? Better chance the Eagles win less than 6 games or more than 10 games?
Less than 6.
Less than 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got him at 5, to be honest.
Unless Jim Schwartz really is a magic man and he turns that muck into a really, really good defense right away.
Because check his record. He's won 10, 12 games a lot. Wait, no, he hasn't.
Yeah, that's a fair point. All right, yeah, I mean, I'd probably go less than 6 too, but I just don't see this team bottoming out. Like,
keep watching.
Yeah. I mean, then I always go back to is the trio of Sam Bradford, Doug Peterson, and Howie Roseman one that I think can build a winner in the NFL? I don't think the answer right now is yes. I mean, Howie's never.
Anything I say about that's going to get me in a lot of trouble. So I'm just going to.
Howie Roseman has the best resume amongst those 3. Would you agree with that?
Yes, by a lot, I think. Actually.
Right. I mean, Peterson doesn't have a resume, and Bradford's resume is bad. So I just think like that's it. I mean, if you're an Eagles fan, as an Eagles fan, if you're listening to this podcast, those are the 3 guys that are leading this franchise right now. And I mean,
for better or worse.
For better or worse. And I mean, I don't know how people should feel about that because I mean that's not exactly. I don't think there's any 3 of those guys that you could be excited about. I guess is my way to put it. Like when they hired Chip, it was like, okay, this guy's like considered one of the best coaches, football offensive mind coaches in the world. You know, they had all this. You could be excited about him. They had some. I guess you actually wasn't much to be excited about a quarterback, but you had Chip to be excited about.
Mike Vick was still around.
Yeah, he was old though.
Still Mike Vick.
But my point is, you could be excited about Chip. I don't think any of these 3 people you look at and go, nice. Like, I feel good about where we're going because of these 3.
I haven't said a word yet.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, so as we move into what this week is, and that now we're in the legal tampering period. Then
can I say one thing, Joe, before we go free agency?
Mm-hmm.
Let me just add this one thing real quick. I think we'll find out just how committed the Eagles are to Sam Bradford by what they do in the draft.
In terms of when they take a quarterback.
When or if they don't take one at all, then they're saying that speaks volumes about how they feel. And if they take one at 13, then it's really a 1 or 2 year deal.
Right.
He won't be back.
That would be clear.
If they spend number 13 on whoever, and it's a quarterback, then they're telling you, all right, he's keeping his seat warm.
Right? They'll take one in like the 3rd or 4th round, and it'll be just high enough where it'll be interesting, but low enough where he won't feel threatened. And,
right. That's what I think. And then that just tells you that this guy's a backup for.
Right.
Exactly. All right, so as we move into free agency here, Elliot, you mentioned a few minutes ago that Bradford, although the cap hit for this year isn't, it's not bad at all for a starting quarterback, it does eat up a good chunk of what they had to work with. So they're, I think, about 20 or 21st in cap room starting on Monday. We could talk about how they could clear some more out in a few minutes, but just based on what we know they have right now, about $17 or so million in cap room.
Right.
What do we expect of the Eagles? I mean, they have needs on the offensive line, which they've talked about. They have need at safety next to Malcolm Jenkins. They could certainly use another veteran wide receiver to add to the mix they have right now, but there's not a lot to spend. So do you see them going after 1 or 2 guys that can make an impact, or is this going to have to be spread around for them to make an impact here over the next couple days?
Well, to me, the biggest thing that to keep in mind when talking about their cap space is I think Howie Roseman's going to want to carry over some space. So they have $17 million in cap space roughly. They're going to have to pay the rookies. So, that's like $5 million or whatever. So that brings them down to 11. So the thing about the cap is, really all that matters.
5 is 11 now? I know there's new math, but Isn't that 12?
Sorry, yeah, right. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
17, yes, they have like roughly 12 million. Well, I was thinking 5 or 6 million, but yeah, whatever. So they have like 12 million in cap space. But the thing is, the way you can structure contracts in the NFL, and especially if I mean Howie's strength is contracts, I guess the Eagles could sign like 2 or 3 big money guys and have their cap hits for this year total like 7 million. So the Eagles can get guys under the cap. The issue is, I'm not so sure Howie Roseman wants to go right up, like to only have 3 million left in cap space, $3 or $4 million left in cap space. I think Howie wants to carry money over to next year because, as he said at the combine when I talked to him, the cap situation for next offseason is also very tight, especially if you're going to have Bradford taking a $23 million hit now. So I think the Eagles would spend on maybe one guy, but I think it's going to be. I just don't think they're going to spend big. Now, watch, they will, but I think Howie wants to bring cap space over into next season.
I don't care about what he does cap space wise. I think the Eagles have learned. If they haven't learned, shame on them. You don't win. You don't build through free agency. Should I bring up the dream team or no? Can we let that go?
Or even just last offseason.
Or even last offseason.
Dream team part 2 last year.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. It just doesn't work. Where free agency does work is you address if you have one glaring need. I'm going to say the Eagles have one at guard. You go out and sign the best guard available. That would be Kelechi. I'm going to say his name wrong. Asamili. Is that how you say it? I'm not even sure how to pronounce it. I know how to spell it. But from the Baltimore Ravens.
They call him KO down there. We could do that.
Let's do that. That's what they want. Put all your eggs in that big old basket and sign him. And don't do anything else. You don't have to do anything else. Everything else comes
How
through.
old is he? Is he young?
He's 26.
That's the perfect age for a guard.
Yep, I agree.
You don't want young guards aren't really ready yet. Old guards are too old. There's nothing. There's not a negative. He might be Jordan, who covers the Giants for us. He and I were talking. He thinks he's the best free agent available of any position.
I might agree with him. He played
might be
left
right.
tackle at college. I mean, I could see in a few years. I mean, he played tackle last year too when the Ravens had injuries.
If you get
Lane Johnson could play left tackle, he could play right tackle.
well, I'd put him at guard for now. I mean,
No, I would too. I mean, down the line, like he's
right, if
versatile.
you have to, but that's the one guy. I don't want nobody else. He's the first guy I'm on the phone with. I get that deal done, and then I say, okay, let's get ready for the draft now. Maybe one other, I want the linebacker from Detroit too, Whitehead, because he just makes too much sense. He can play inside because they're linebackers. They have, I mean, you can say what you want about the starters, but there's zero depth at linebacker. And this kid could play inside or outside. He knows Jim Schwartz's defense. He went to Temple. He's from Jersey City. There's too many reasons there's too many reasons for him not to come here. But he's not going to cost. He'd be $1.5 million probably.
Now we're talking here about the money they have, and Elliot, you mentioned maybe trying to keep some cap room for next year. Now, Howie Roseman, we know how he's creative here. Do you guys see any way over the next couple days that Howie tries to add some extra cap room to the mix here, whether it is to go after KO or whatever needs they want to go after? I mean, they could cut guys. We've talked about Mark Sanchez before. I think it's $3.5 million they could save. I mean, do you see any way the Eagles will create some cap room here for the next couple days? And Howie Roseman being creative, Elliot.
Yeah, I think one way would be to trade Darren Sproles. He would free up another $3.5 million in cap space. I don't really see the need for him on the Eagles this year. They're not going to be a competitive team. You don't need to pay your third. He might be their best running back, but in reality, on the depth chart, he's third. So, I mean, you're not going to pay him. I think his cap hit is $5 million or $4.5 million or something like that. $4.5 million. I think to another team, he has way more value. We've discussed this before. Teams like the Patriots, the Seahawks, that type of thing. So that would be one way to open cap space would be to move him. I don't think you'd have to cut him because I think there would be a market for him. I mean, it seems like Jason Peters is going to be back, but that would be another way potentially. I think you can save a chunk of money by cutting him, and then maybe if you go after the guard from Baltimore, that's a way to do that. So I think those are two players that they could get rid of that would open space, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did if they traded Sproles. I would be surprised at this point if they cut Peters, but the Sproles thing would not shock me.
And I think Sanchez as well. I mean,
yeah.
People keep saying, "Oh, just cut him." People don't understand. Sanchez is there. He's not I know he didn't play that well last year, but the circumstances were kind of messed up. But there's value in backup. I mean, I've seen backup quarterbacks. They're not going to get a ton for him. I'm not saying you're going to get a great pick. You might get a low pick. You might be able to use him, say Sanchez, in a fourth round to get another third round, or or you move up in the third round with Sanchez, whatever. I think there's somebody. I listed teams in a story I did Monday morning in a slideshow where I think there's 5 or 6 teams that would welcome Mark Sanchez on their roster and wouldn't mind giving up a little bit to get him.
Did you have the 49ers as one with Chip Kelly?
No.
Oh.
They have quarterback. No, but I think the Rams, I think the Vikings, I think the Colts, I think the Broncos. The Broncos need a veteran backup now, right? If Osweiler's their starter, don't they want a veteran backup?
Yeah. The Rams make a ton of sense for them.
The Rams and for him, he would love that going back to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I think the Colts need a backup behind Luck because Hasselbeck's has retired, right? And I think the Ravens might need an opening day starter. Flacco might not be ready opening day.
Right, and why would they? They don't want to rush that guy. So if
right.
he needs 3 more weeks, yeah, it makes sense, Mark. I always think that Sanchez gets too much flack too. He's one of the most accomplished backup quarterbacks. If you view him that way, there's not many guys that have more of a career as a back.
He's more accomplished than Bradford is.
Oh my God,
yeah, he is.
So the man's been, say what you want about him, he's been to 2 title games in his career, 2 AFC title games.
Yeah, and he played in a couple of those playoff games to get there. He played very well.
He beat the Patriots on the road in the playoff game. You do that as a quarterback. I mean, I think that,
No,
Elliot, don't forget. I mean, Bradford did beat them in December on the road as part of his 7-game stretch. So.
With 120 yards passing. He played well in that game. But he did play well in that game. But obviously Sanchez is at a far – I mean –
No, that's what I'm saying. It's like, get rid of Sanchez. I wouldn't just get rid of him. I think you could get – again, I'm not looking for a high – I'm looking to maybe, like I said, use him to move up. Use him to go from one round to another round. I think there's some value, and like I said, I don't think the Baltimore Ravens or the Denver Broncos would mind giving you something for him.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea, and it would create the cap space. All right, let's go around here. And Mark, you already had said guard and Kelechi KO from down in Baltimore will be your number 1 target. I want from each of you, give me your top 3 needs in terms of, let's say the Eagles found a way to carve out a little more cap space. So they had some maneuverability to land 2 or 3 players at different positions. How would you rank the priorities, Elliot? Give me your top 3 if the Eagles can find a way to land 3 players in free agency. How would you kind of rank which ones are most important? What positions?
You want names or positions?
Positions. We'll go positions. Then you can throw out a name or two if you have someone in mind. But let's start with positions.
Well, I'm sure me and Mark will agree on these 3. But I would say, obviously guard is number 1. Safety is number 2. And actually the third one's kind of tough. I mean, I think they could use a receiver.
I agree with you on that.
I think that would probably I'd probably go guard, safety, and then like offensive tackle. And I also think they need a backup center. So those would be like my 4, and then I think a receiver. If they could, I like a guy like Rashard Matthews out of Miami. I think he would be a very good pickup for them. At safety, George Iocca from Cincinnati. So I think there's some options out there. But yeah, those would kind of be how I would rank it.
Are you in the same camp there, Mark? The offensive guard, safety, receiver.
Guards without a doubt number 1. Safety's number 2. I think linebacker's number 3 for why I said earlier. I mean, the 3 starters might not play a combined 20 games, and they have nobody behind them. So I think they need linebackers. I think that this team is in desperate need of linebackers. So I'm putting linebacker. I mean, wide receiver, you have Jordan Matthews, who, whatever, he did drop some balls, but he had a pretty good year. And unless you're willing to give up on Nelson Aguilar already, which I don't think they are, you have him, and then Huff and whatever else. But I mean, linebacker, are you guys happy with Kendricks, Hicks, and Alonso as your starting linebackers?
In theory, maybe, but like you said, all 3 of them could be hurt or not as effective as we think.
Right.
But here's my question: Are you going to sign a linebacker where you give him enough money where he's your starter? Like, who are you benching out of those 3?
I'm signing like a guy like Tahir Whitehead who can come in, and when Alonso gets hurt, he can go in and play. And if Hicks gets hurt, he can go in and, I mean, they need, it's going to, all right, everybody wants to talk about Bradford's last 7 games. Let's look at Alonso's last 7 games. He was a terrible player for his last ever.
Yeah.
When he came back, he couldn't play. He couldn't run. He couldn't do anything.
The difference is with Alonso, his cap hit's only $700,000.
Again, stop with the cap hits. I'm talking about playing ability.
No, I know, but it matters because
0.
But they're not just going to cut Alonso. But my point is, Alonzo will get a chance to go into training camp and see.
Very well.
Yeah, that's my only point I'm making. Yeah.
But are you convinced that he's a good player?
No, I'm not convinced he's a good player, but I'm also not convinced he's like completely done.
I just think they need a linebacker in case he's done.
Right. No, but that was my question.
Hendricks gets hurt again, or in case Hicks gets hurt again.
Yeah, but no, that was my question. Like, when you say they need a linebacker?
Yes.
Are you thinking you would want to go sign somebody that makes enough, like one of the top end linebackers?
I don't think there are any.
Because it's like with the guard, we
guard. I need a starter. Safety, I need a starter. Linebacker, I need depth. And guys that can come in and play, because I don't think these three are going to make it through the year.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I think that's more important than wide receiver.
I agree with that.
Because I don't think you're going to get him. I mean, you want this kid from Miami, right?
Yeah.
What's his name again?
Rashard Matthews.
Matthews. Yeah. First of all, they have too many Matthews on the team already, so I don't want him.
Yeah, there you go.
But does he use one T or two? That's
two T's.
Maybe he can use three. Then it would really.
Is he a Rushard or a Richard?
I think it's Rushard.
Yeah, I think it's with an I. So that makes him unique in terms of the Matthews. But go ahead, Mark.
I mean, does he want? I mean, he wants to be a number. He wants to be a starter. If he leaves Miami, he wants to start somewhere. Do you think he'd start here?
Do you consider three receivers as starters or just two?
I think just two now, because I think in the old in the old system, yeah, they started three receivers. I think if I watch Kansas City enough, and I watched Andy Reid's old offense enough, they didn't go three unless it was like 3rd and 12 or late in the game if they're behind. They went a lot of two backs, which we never saw under Chip Kelly. They're going to go two backs, and they're going to go two tight ends a lot. So I don't think we're going to see as much three wide. I think we're going to see more Selleck and Ertz together with two wide, or that. You know what? We left out what's really a big need for this team: a fullback. They don't have one, and they're going to use one this year.
Well, let me ask you this. Now, I agree on the fullback thing, but I know you wrote about this a little bit this morning, and it's Monday, Mark. I mean, how committed do you think the Eagles are to Nelson Aguilar?
I don't know. I threw that out there. Like, he was definitely all Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
So if Howie and Doug say he doesn't fit what we want to do, you could move. I mean, but you better get a lot back.
No, but my point is maybe you bring Rashard Matthews. I mean,
okay, trade Aguilar and bring Matthews in,
or you bring Rashard Matthews in and just make him compete. I mean, I just don't think. I don't think. Look, Jordan Matthews.
Yeah, Aguilar. You better trade him now before his value keeps declining.
Is his value any low? Is it going to be? I mean, I guess it could only get lower
if he gets hurt again or something like that.
Right.
Like
so right now, you could get. I mean,
you're not getting a 1st-round pick for him. That's really all that matters, right?
Maybe.
You think so?
Well, I threw this out there. Would you, if let's say Chip still likes him, would you trade 13 and Aguilar for 7?
Yes.
Yeah, I would do that. He could, if he's going to be a good player, that probably comes back to bite you because the difference between 13 and 7 might not be him. But I would probably do it. Yeah, especially if I really like someone at 7, that's the big jump up.
I also think there's an argument to be made when you have so many questions.
I think the Niners might do that too because they need receivers. There's none worth taking at 7. They get Aguilar and they're moving down to 13 where they can still get somebody decent.
And probably in Chip's mind, he's buying low on a guy he still really likes.
Let me ask you guys this: do you think it's worth? I mean, if you're the Eagles. You don't know what who knows what the offense is going to be like? Who knows what the head coach is going to be like? And the quarterback has already shown he cannot make receivers better than they are. Is it worth investing in a receiver at this point? Or do you have so many other questions elsewhere that it's almost like having a really good closer when you're a bad team?
Right. I don't think receivers a big need. I think it's a need. It's not they need some speed there. That's what they need. The whole offense needs more speed.
Though I do think if they're going to add a receiver, it would make more sense to me at least to get someone free agency. Just because, and maybe I'm wrong because maybe the Chip year is separate from everything else. It just is hard for me to imagine they're going to invest another high pick in receiver. I mean, they spent a 2nd on Matthews, a 3rd on Huff, and a 1 on Aguilar. That's the last 2 years. Are they going to spend another top 3 pick on a receiver?
I wouldn't.
Well, they have 2/3 though.
So what they have? They have 10 needs.
No, I know. Look. I think the Eagles are at a point where is there any position on the team that you feel is 100% fine? I mean, besides wherever Fletcher. But yeah, you're okay. Tight end, you're right, and I think the defensive line, I feel good about.
You do, huh?
Well, I mean, I think Well, all right. What do you think the strongest?
You're right. It's good enough that they're not going to add anything there.
Well, also, what do you think the strongest unit on the team is?
Tight end.
More than defensive line?
Yes.
Really?
I'd go defensive line. No, I wish I would be happier if they had one more real
what would
pass
your
rusher on the edge.
Your argument for tight end?
You have 2 really good ones.
Selleck.
only need one. You only need one, and you have, and I think Trey Burton's pretty darn good for a third guy.
I think Selleck is at this point a good player, and I think Zach Ertz.
I didn't say great. I said good.
Okay, but on the defensive line, you have
What do you
Hall
got?
of Famer Fletcher Cox. You have Vinny Curry. You
Yeah,
have
how many sacks did Vinny Curry have last year?
but the year before he had 9.5.
Well, how many did he have last year?
Yeah, not a lot last year. Okay, but I mean,
He's averaging
I think he might have had just as many sacks as Zach Ertz had touchdowns.
Okay, but that's because Sam Bradford doesn't throw him the ball. Ertz would have had one more against the Redskins if somebody else was quarterbacking, maybe.
Yeah. No, look, I agree they don't have a need at tight end or I'm just interested you put tight end among defensive along the top.
I'm not sold. Are you sold on Brandon Graham? I'm not.
I'm more sold on Brandon Graham than I am on Brent Selleck.
Well, Brent Selleck's my backup tight end. Brandon Graham's your starting defensive end, I think. And Connor Barwin, do we know if he can play defensive end?
Yeah, I'm skeptical of that, too. I actually wonder if there's any thought to – I mean, I think a 3-4 team could use Connor Barwin, and that would create cap space and get something back.
And you could probably get something for him, right?
Yeah, I think you could.
And there's part of me that's like, I don't know if I trade Barwin because he's such a culture guy, but I mean, I don't know if that matters anymore.
The culture's gone now. Now it's just the Bradford show.
Yeah. Well, now Bradford's such a leader. I don't think you need anybody else.
I thought that was a mistake moving. I think Barwin could play 4-3 line. I mean, I don't know why they're making Connor Barwin a defensive end.
Maybe he wants to. I don't know.
I guess, but I mean, I'm not putting the defense. I would put them second,
right?
Needs, but I mean, and they have no depth there. Who's your backups?
I mean, Bo Allen. I don't know. Well, but my point is, out of the two defensive end spots, I think they have three good players in Brandon Graham.
I don't think Graham's good. I think Graham's as average as they come.
But my point is, at this point in their career, do you think Do you think that Selleck is better at tight end than Brandon Graham is at defensive end?
I'd go Graham.
Yeah, maybe. But
I think I'd go Graham.
Back is Brandon. Zach Ertz is better than Brandon Graham.
Right, but I think Fletcher Cox is easily.
Who's your backups?
I think Fletcher Cox is easily the best player on either of those units.
Okay, that's one guy.
Okay, but I guess if you rank the players on those two units, I think if you rank the top like 7, like
well, I only had 2.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean,
when you asked me what I think, I thought you meant like what. There's no way I'm signing a tight end or drafting a tight end. There's no way. I can't afford to waste a pick or any more money on tight end.
Yeah, I disagree. I think if there's a really good tight end, someone in the 5th round that you fell, I mean, how much longer is Selleck here?
Well, what do we think about Burton? Is he still part of this?
Yeah, I like Burton. I like Burton too.
I like Burton a lot too, but I think there's a chance he might play fullback.
No,
that might be your fullback.
I don't think so. He can't play. He's not a great blocker.
I mean, I like Burton, but I think Burton's a chip guy for what it's worth. And 2,
Where'd Burton go to school?
Yeah,
Florida?
Florida.
Yeah. Who else? And who went to Florida?
Howie Roseman.
Oh, there you go.
No, Howie does love the Florida guys. I agree with that. But I guess what I'm saying is Selleck is either on the downswing of his career or like very close to it. So I wouldn't. And Burton, I don't know. Like I wouldn't surprise me if they drafted another tight end where maybe you keep 3 or 4 on the roster. Maybe
First of all, this might be the worst tight end draft in the last 20 years. So that's another reason why I wouldn't draft one.
Well, had I known that, maybe I wouldn't either. But.
And I wouldn't. You certainly wouldn't sign a free agent tight end, right?
I mean, for like maybe who knows, like $800,000. Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what the cost is going to be. But you're right. In either of those positions, I would not.
But defensive line, I think you need depth there, if nothing else. All right? God forbid, Fletcher Cox sprains an ankle and misses 2 games.
I don't think he's capable of getting hurt. But yeah,
he comes out with a really bad pull.
From getting held so much in one game, he gets hurt. Go ahead though.
Who starts?
Benny Logan.
Yeah.
And Bo Allen.
Yeah.
Bo Allen, who's.
Well, wait. Well, what about Cedric Thornton? Do we think he's back?
Yeah, he's not back.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying he could be back.
No, I can see Cedric Thornton running to Chip in San Francisco out there. They have a lot of cap room and they need a defense.
Yep. I agree.
Cedric Thornton will be playing for a 3-4 team next year.
Yeah.
There's no way he's back.
All right. So you need depth. All right. You need depth on the defense.
Yeah. And you want depth on defense line anyway because those guys can't play. You don't want Fletcher Cox playing 65 plays a game or whatever. I mean, or any defensive lineman. I mean, they need a little break through the
Well,
fourth.
it's also harder. It's harder to compare these two positions because there's only one or two tight ends on the field. I mean, there's four defensive endmen at
Exactly.
all time.
I'm
Yeah,
just saying that there's a bigger need. I don't think there's any need at tight end. I think there is a need at defensive line. That's all. We're arguing over nothing here, really. But I
right.
mean, I just think tight end is one spot I wouldn't look at.
I mean, I think we can both agree on is Bradford's not a good quarterback. So let's just move on.
But yet he's the quarterback. That's for sure on every count.
Yeah.
They need help in the secondary too.
They need a safety.
I think safeties are. I think what they do with Eric Rowe obviously is an impact here because wherever they're going to play him, they need the other position.
Right.
I think they're going to keep him at corner.
Why are they not bringing Walter Thurman back?
I have no idea. I mean, do you think they want more of a traditional strong safety?
Maybe. I don't know. I'm asking.
I thought he had a good year.
I thought so
I thought he
too.
had a very good year.
Yeah.
He made plays for them.
Maybe his price is higher than they want to go right now.
I kind of think maybe they know that he doesn't want to come back.
Yeah.
He came here for Chip Kelly, I think, right? I mean, can we agree on that?
He didn't come here for Billy Davis. So
that's for sure.
I mean, don't you think that he kind of wanted to play? He knew Chip from Oregon.
But I think you absolutely have to sign a safety because you can draft one, but that's a risk. But you have to sign somebody that if you have to sign someone that you would feel comfortable starting week 1 next to Malcolm Jenkins.
Sure. Unless you bring Thurman back, but it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And yeah, you can't draft because you're not going to draft one at 13. There's nothing worth taking at 13. And then now you're waiting to the third round.
Yeah,
I don't know if you're going to get a starting caliber safety in the
Yeah, you're asking a lot. I mean, I think last year it took Eric Rowe. I know it's corner, but it's still defensive back. It took him 5 or 6 weeks. I mean, he got in the field a little bit against the Jets, but it took him a little while to finally get in the field. Right. Then he did against the Lions. I mean, in the last month he was good, but it took him a while to be.
And he was a high second round pick.
Right. So I agree. I mean, I think they have to get a safety. All right, before we wrap this, let's go around and give a free agent prediction for the Eagles. It could be, it could be an actual player, or it could just be kind of what you think they'll do in terms of they'll target this position, that position. So Elliot, then Mark, and then I'll give one. A prediction for the next couple of weeks with the Eagles.
All right. I think they're going to sign Jeff Allen from Kansas City. I think
the first Peterson guy?
Yeah, I think he fills a need for them. I think they'll overpay for him. Mark has his opinion on how good he thinks he is. But I think that's the one they'll end up. I think they'll end up with him.
That would be great because he's they'll overpay another average player. They already have Jeff Allen. It's Jeff Allen Barber. It's the same guy.
There you go.
Did you ever play that Wheel of Fortune where they do before and that's Jeff Allen Barber?
Right.
But no, I'm going to shoot higher. I'm saying that they're going to put all their eggs in the basket. They're going to go get my man KO from Baltimore. Howie gets it done like he always does. He'll be executive of the year, and they get the guy. They get the best free agent on the market.
And that would be fun. The prediction I'll go with is I don't think they're going to sign one big guy. And in fact, I think they're going to sign 2 or 3, whether it be the Jeff Allens, the Rashard Matthews, the George Iokas, and they're all going to introduce him in one big day. So instead of having one press conference to announce KO or, with a one big free agent, I could see them signing 3 or 4 guys, and it's like one big day. You guys get to go over there and meet them. So that's my prediction. But this is going to be different than last year because last year was just wild. I think this is going to be a little more toned down. You guys agree?
I don't know.
It can't be like that. My God, that once in a lifetime thing. Yet they did create. They did. It was nuts. No, they can't. Yeah, no.
All I know is I've been covering the team for 3 or 4 years, and it seems like every time there's any event on the NFL calendar, the Eagles are one of the most talked about teams. So it just wouldn't surprise me if they ended up somehow doing something crazy.
But it can't be like that. I mean,
no, it won't be like last year.
Traded a quarterback for a quarterback. That never happens. I mean, that's not going to happen again. They traded their all-time leading rusher and then signed the guy that led the league in rushing. Well, that's not going to happen this year.
Yeah,
so it can't even come close to last year. I mean, what can they unless they trade Fletcher Cox? And that's
that'll clear up some cap room and add some picks to the mix.
I'm saying that would be the only possible that could compare to what they did last year to trade their best player. And I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I wouldn't think so either. But like we said with Howie, he's always active, and
There'll be a lot of minor moves. Like they'll make trades. Like he's going to try to trade Sanchez and get something for me. He may try to trade Sproles and get something for They need more picks. That's what I mean. They have extra. They have what do they have? 9 or
They
7?
They need higher picks.
Right. They have 2 3s, 2 5s, 2 7s, no 2. So I think they're going to try to, if they can get it, if they can even add more 3s and 4s and 5s, and then on come draft day, trade a 3 and a 4 for a 2, or you know what I'm saying? I think they're going to try to stockpile some. Again, that's what I would do. I would try to stockpile as many picks and try to build this team up through the draft, not free agents.
So they're going to be active. I think we'll end on that. The Eagles are going to be active, maybe not as crazy as last year with the big names, but they will be active, and you guys will be all over it. So we'll come together soon for another episode to kind of talk about what they've done and where the team is maybe post free agency or post the first wave of it. So we'll talk then, and we'll be reading you guys on NJ.com as all the news starts coming in, and doing this on a Monday, Wednesday, all these guys will start signing.
I got breaking news.
What do we got?
RG3 was cut today.
So he's available. And
Yep.
if Bradford wasn't signed, we'd all be talking about it in
Yes,
depth
we would.
probably.
Oh, for sure.
All right, guys. Appreciate doing this. Thanks, Elliot.
Talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Joe.
And thanks to all of you for listening to episode 30 of the No Huddle Show. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes, on Stitcher, on SoundCloud, and follow the show at the No Huddle Show on Twitter. All the new episodes will hit right there as soon as they are live. Thank you for listening, guys.